Alright, welcome back to another Mask Momentum video. Today we got a special one. This past weekend, I had a pretty good result in Battle Hardened Sonoma weekend. Ended up losing in top 4 of the Battle Hardened, but winning the ProQuest Plus on the Sunday here and getting this really sick trophy. I think you can bring it up a little bit closer. ProQuest Plus champion from the Sonoma Con. This past weekend. This is a really cool wood structure. I need to figure out where to put it. But also got a cold foil Volzair, which is super cool. One of the majestic hits you can still get from this, which is pretty cool. A good weekend here. Almost got the PCG Invasion finals in the Battle Hardened of me versus Caleb Bermajin. But unfortunately choked that top 4 right there. But perfectly fine. Sometimes you make mistakes during your games, and it's perfectly fine of learning. Let's get into it here. We're talking about CINDRA. CINDRA is one of those decks that I used to play right when it came out. I remember playing me playing Yuki's Decklist at the very beginning. We had a really good one. I XO'd one of my pro quests on it back in the day that was streamed on this channel. It was a really comfortable deck for me. Just does a lot of consistent things, and being able to min and max your breakpoints really puts you ahead of an average CINDRA to make it so you just kind of run over your opponent and force them into just difficult blocks, getting your armor through, like getting away with armor early so you can force through these on hits late or make them block with extra cards that they don't want to, and then you take over the game, tempo them out, and it's really strong. As everybody knows, basically with every CINDRA deck list, you have the same equipment here. You got Mask Momentum. Ooh, that's pretty nice. Bloodspire Vest, Flight Path, and Flick Knives with the 2 kunais. Standard loadout. They're very good. Basically, the whole deck's identity is being able to play a massive amount of 0 cost attacks that have go again, or finishers, or like different additional pumps, and then using Vest, Flick Knives plus a Vest to basically play all of the 1 cost for free, or keep going with kunais, etc. So let's get into it. I want to highlight a couple of things, more on what has go again, what's a starter, what's a finisher, etc. Because I think what really matters in a CINDRA deck these days is the quantity of numbers. I think impacts a lot, right? So when you specifically look at this going down, I got 3 Lava Burst, 1 Hunt the Hunter. I got 3 Breaking Points, 2 Art of the Dragon Fires, and then theoretically Art of the Dragon Blood. But I'm looking at 9 finishers, and then 3 at Art of the Dragon Bloods that can or cannot be a finisher depending on the field team generation. But I like that 9, right? There's a lot of hands that you can't play both finishers, especially if they're 1 cost, because of just like the resource economy with Vest and Flick Knives. The only time you can play multiple finishers is if you have Lava Burst plus a 1 cost, which is the reason why I always want to max out on Lava Burst in this deck. I see a lot of people have their list, and then Lava Burst isn't a 3 of, it's a 2 of, maybe it's a 1 of, right? Those obviously Lava Burst isn't as good when there's multiple decks that are limiting the amount of cards in your hand or disrupting you turn after turn, right? New, for example, like Lava Burst wasn't really good against New, all these other decks, right? Lava Burst is really good right now, right? Think about the disruption in the format right now is all these Earth type of decks that, I have Plow Under, CNC, Felling, right? Obviously, they're going to be able to take a card from either the Arsenal Zone or your hand, but if you have a 5-card hand, the card in your arsenal and a 4-card hand, and they Felling you still have a 4-card hand to be able to cast Lava Burst. If you have an arsenal and you draw up a 4-card hand and they plow you still have a 4-card hand to cast Lava Burst. So it is less of having a quantity of, you just need a quantity of cards in your hand, and they're not disrupting your hand and your arsenal in the same turn basically ever. So even if they erase face you, Lava Burst works because it just needs to be chain link 4 or higher. It doesn't care about other Draconic cards, etc. So Lava Burst has to be a 3 of here. Looking at it here, Hunt the Hunter, it is pretty important to have fealty generation. It's the reason we have Demonstrate Devotion in the deck. I hate Demonstrate Devotion, let me tell you. I think it's like one of the worst cards in the deck, but it has a role which it needs to run in this deck of making extra fealty. It's just a 1 cost for go again, make a fealty. That's it. It just needs to make a fealty, have a go again. Has a breakpoint as well as 1 cost, which is perfectly fine. But Hunt the Hunter fits that same purpose. It's a 3 block. It's a 1 cost finisher. Attacks for 5. When it attacks, you mark your opponent. 90% of the time, you're going to hit, because if you activate Flick Knives and the dagger hits, you get a fealty. So, and they're not marked anymore because it hits. So it's pretty nice. We got Breaking Point. Breaking Point. I mean, this card's insane. Like, it's just CNC and aggro, right? Like, Breaking Point has the same rupture thing as Lava Burst, but just being able to, force 3 cards from your opponent's hand to be able to block your chain links, and then you come on with a Breaking Point. It's like, you have to give me your last card plus like armor to be able to defend this. And if you can't do that, I get to blow up your arsenal. Like, I get to disrupt you as an aggro deck. You're like, oh yeah, that's sold. Yeah, Breaking Point, incredible. Something I'll also say is I really like the Draconic finishers in this deck specifically. As you'll see as we get through it, I have a lot of non-Draconic cards in this deck to basically have more power in the list instead of, pure consistency. So the Draconic finishers are actually really important to get that third Draconic card that I'm playing that turn to get the daggers back. You're kind of starved on fealty in this deck. You really want to use it all the time. Fealty is super important, which I'll get to with Hot on their heels. But we have a 2 of Art of the Dragon Fire. Usually Art of the Dragon Fire is usually just a 3 of. It's like one of the strongest cards, obviously being a 1 card 7. But I caught one a little late into testing into this Battle Hardened for a Hunt the Hunter, just because of fealty generation. I just needed more ways to get fealty, and Art of the Dragon Fire is one of the reasons that I need fealty. So if I'm going to cut it for a 1 for 5 that makes fealty, I'm just going to cut it in finisher. So it kind of evens out, the metrics out there. Then we're going to talk about starters in this deck. Art of the Dragon Blood is kind of starter depending if you have a fealty, but it's one of the most important ones because it makes everything cheaper. The thing you got to think about is your Bloodspire Vest only has 3 activations, right? But I have more than 3 1 cost cards in my deck. So Art of the Dragon Blood is kind of like your other chess piece activations, I like to say, is the games that you play Art of the Dragon Blood and have a fealty, and then you make like Breaking Point is 0, Hunt the Hunter is 0, a fealty Art of the Dragon is 0, Demonstrate Devotion especially as a 0 with Art of the Dragon Blood. Those games are so much easier and you're on the front foot always because you're just having way better numbers, and you get to keep your chess piece for other 1 for 5s later into the game, making it so your overall damage output is better. Incredible card right there. And we got the 3 red Brand Cynical and 1 yellow. I think the 1 yellow is important. You just want something a little bit more for consistency. I don't like yellow specifically in basically ever because it just only attacks for 2, but it is a starter, and I think the Brand with Cinder Claw effect is really important because a lot of the good cards that you want to run, like Fire Tenant, Cut Through, Rabble, all don't have aren't natural Draconic. Also, if you just have a whole bunch of starters in your hand, you can keep Brand until late, and so you can make Art of the Dragonfire or Art of Dragon Blood into Draconic, which is super important every single time it comes up. And it's one of the reasons, like, if you just have a whole bunch of starters, I like to Arsenal Brand with Cinderclaw because it makes it so you're never going to miss on the next turn if you have a starter in your arsenal, but also there's a lot of hands that you'll have 2 Draconic and Brand will always make it a 3, and getting your daggers back every single time is super important when you can, just to keep snowballing that effect going through. We also have Cut Through, which I won't think is really a starter. Hopefully it's not a starter. It's kind of in this mid-range area, but I'll note that this can be a starter depending on what matchup you're playing. Fire Tenant Strike first. This is one of the best. Playing this in areas to where the breakpoint matters. So I like to read a CINDRA when my opponent is blocking. So if my opponent is blocking chain link 2 and 3, then I want to play Fire Tenant first, right? So you play Fire Tenant, then your second one is a 4. If your opponent doesn't like blocking 4, maybe 5 with Blaze Headlong, etc., etc., like making that one a breakpoint if they like doing it is really good. And then you can make the third chain link also a 4 breakpoint. If you can go 3-4-4, that's really good. If your opponent likes blocking on the third and fourth chain link, I like going 3-3-4-4 or 4-5, depending on what my hand texture is. Basically, always trying to make the 2 times that they block you in the chain, because they have to with Flick with the 4-card hand, or breakpoints. So they have to have a D-react. They have to give you armor, or they have to give you multiple cards. And every single time you check them on one of those, on all those 3 marks, eventually you're gonna whittle down their armor, you're gonna whittle down the amount of defense reactions they have, or they're gonna give you such a mass amount of cards on those chain links that you're already getting damage in with the first couple of chain links or the finishing chain link, and then you're just have it like life total lead to where they're just blocking you out every single turn. You're chipping in so much damage. Ignite is one of the best starters, I'll say. It has 2 go again, and then you can swing the dagger next for 1 go again, or you can make Demonstrate Devotion free, or at the very end of the chain, if you have a whole bunch, if you have a whole bunch of starters, you can ignite into Breakpoint or ignite into Hunt the Hunter, or just like ignite into another one of the one costs is also super key. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you only have 2 draconic links, so say you have like a 0 for 3, and then like say you just have Ronin Renegade and Ignite, you can go Ronin Renegade, Ignite, the Ignite trigger will pop if you don't have any and then you don't have any daggers. You can actually activate CINDRA, because the Ignite trigger actually works on CINDRA's activated ability. So if you only have 2 draconic chain links and they block this Ignite, you can activate CINDRA, and then you can flick on this chain link, which comes up a lot, especially because there's, you know, like sometimes you just draw a hand that has like 1 or 2 draconic cards in it, and you really need to get that the CINDRA daggers back. It's this cool thing with Ignite that has. This is one of the best starters. It doesn't look like incredibly good when you first look at it, because it attacks for 2 and then just makes the next thing free. But it's always going to be technically 3 and extends the chain links, especially when your opponent's like armor is, you know, taxed later in the game. They don't really have anything left. Going 2 into 1, and so you're always having that max chain link on that third right there with, you know, 3 cards left in your hand. They're just having to block so many chain links at that point, and taking so much damage that you just kind of get there in the end with Ignite. And double Ignite turns are just kind of crazy. Oath of Loyalty. This is one of the most, like, I would say, controversial starters, basically, like, during testing. It's just one of those cards to where I'm playing a lot of non-draconic cards, so sometimes this is really clunky. I've thought about going to 2 on this card. I do like the power that this has. If you draw Oath of Loyalty with just straight draconic cards, like having a 0 for 4 starter, it's just always better than having a 0 for 3 starter, obviously. But it has a lot of power in it. It has a lot of limitations in your deck, from deck building and there, but I think Oath deserves a spot. Maybe it goes down, you know, only goes to 2, depending on like future lists that I want to run, but Oath is super, super cool. I really like it a lot. Then we have Ravenous Rabble, non-draconic starter. Usually attacks for 4 with Go Again, unless you get unlucky and reveal a blue, which you know, I seem to always do. So Rebel, obviously very good. Just gets to play 0 for 4 with Go Again, basically unconditionally. Will always make the deck. Rising Resentment is one of the last ones here. 0 for 3, banish attack action card in hand, which actually comes up. This Rising trigger comes up a decent amount. If it's not the first like head job that you play per turn, a lot of the times they won't block it because your deck is like 90% 0 costs. But sometimes you can get a, you know, you want to get one of the 1 cost free. It doesn't matter if the 1 cost is a draconic card or not. It just matters how many draconic chain links that you have when you hit with Rising Resentment. which is also pretty cool, which also helps with the whole chess piece economy. So sometimes it's pretty good there. And then we got Ronin Renegade, which is literally just a head jab, but it's draconic, which is super important, still in the deck. So it is quite nice here. One of the most good starters here. Then we have we also have Wrath as going to be kind of our like middle set slash finisher type of thing. Wrath, obviously legendary, is the whole reason you play the boots in this deck, is because you can swing a dagger again. Wrath being like basically 1 card 7 to 9 to 11 is, you know, it's the reason why it's a legendary. Like if you could play 3 of this card, oh my god, I'd be slamming 3 of this card in every single CINDRA deck. It needs to be a one of. It's actually crazy. There's a lot of games where you're close, you draw a hand with Wrath, and you're just like, boom, getting in there, you know, or like it makes close games into you getting a blowout. If you play this early, you're just like never losing tempo again because your opponent has to block out and leak damage because of this card. Like this card's just incredible every time you can see it. It's the reason why it's like it's hard to play, right? It has to be like the third or fourth chain link, depending on the turn. Like it is incredible. Giving +1 to your daggers, you can always just swing them, flick them, get them back, do it again. Boots, it's just incredible. One of the things I always look forward to casting basically in this deck. Some other middle cards, like there's the starters, the finishers, and kind of like the middle cards that it can be hot on their heels. If you control 2 or more draconic chain links, it gets go again, and when it hits, mark them. The more and more I play CINDRA, the more I realize that hot on the heels is just actually incredible and almost is a must block for my opponent every time I play it. I need a lot of fealty. Like it's just subliminal. Like you can get 1 to 2 value, even 3 value out of a fealty basically every single time you get one. So the hot on the heels marking your opponent, it's just a head jab, right? A lot of the times your opponent can't block it because it doesn't work with their hand texture or like when mask is going to be triggered, right? So getting that free mark, getting a hit later down the line because you're definitely going to hit your opponent again in the game, like you go so wide, and getting that fealty, super important. One of the best, like middling the pack. It also blocks 3, which pretty much matters a lot of the time. There's display loyalty. This one is the 2 block version, but it just makes a fealty when you attack with it if there's 2 draconic chain links, which is super important. Obviously you need the fealty. Doesn't block 3, but it has, you know, just automatically makes the fealty, doesn't need to hit. We have the Demonstrate Devotion, which is the 1 cost version of Display Loyalty, but it attacks for 4 instead of for 3. But it does cost 1, which can be a little bit awkward, but just making a fealty whenever I need it is super important. Cut Through is also in here. This one is if you hit with a dagger, it gets +1 and go again. So it says when you hit with a dagger, this combat chain. So you can technically play the Cut Through and then flick, and then it'll give itself go again, and then it'll pump itself to 4 and get go again. So it technically is a starter, but also is technically a middle of the pack, like when you want to be playing it, because you usually want to go like 3, 3, 4, 4, and you want like the Cut Through to be like the last 4 or like the third attack in that thing. So when you like flick, it becomes like because you want to use your flick before you play this card, depending if they have like a shelter or like any prevention up. It can be your starter. It's like pretty risky depending on like who you're playing. Like when you're playing the mirror, like I'm just sending it. Like if my hand like needs to work that way, like sometimes you just have like the hand of like Cut Through, Blaze, Display Loyalty, for example, right? And like you just have to start with Cut Through, and you just hope they don't have they randomly don't have the prevention card in their hand. A lot depending on the matchup, it's more free than not. But keep that in mind. Cut Through should be used at one of the middle cards, but can be used as a starter depending on when. And then we got Burning Blade Dance. This one I used to think was incredible. I've kind of been down on it a little bit because they just never let you hit with it because it's just basically 0 for 4 whenever you play it because you get to flick the dagger. But it is just one of those that if you control 2 or more draconic links, has a go again, and then when it hits, you can, you know, flick a dagger basically, and it blocks for 3. Then there's Blaze Headlong, which is one of my favorite cards of all time. If you've played a right card this turn, it gets go again, 0 for 4, incredible. 90% of my deck is red. It's going to have go again a lot. It's quite good. Blaze allows you to push damage and have breakpoints. I'm always basically playing this whenever I'm triggering Mask or need to trigger Mask. Like, Blaze is incredible. Our other dragon, same thing. Can be a starter, can be a middle card to get, you know, your one costs cheaper and as well. Then to round out basically everything, we have the 3 copies of Ancestral Empowerment. This card is an absolute blowout, one of the best. It looks so like, oh, it just gives +1 and draws a card and replaces itself. And it blocks for 3 and it's not draconic and it doesn't work with Oath. This card is incredible. When you go like 3/3 and your opponent blocks the second chain link with a 3 block and you're just like Ancestral +1 draw card, like make that chain link hit, then you're going Blaze Headlong for 4. They have to, you know, use a defense reaction or a card plus armor. You get to flick on that chain link in there. It's extending Mask Momentum chain links. Hitting on the 3rd chain link, you know, they block 3-on-3 or 4-on-4 and you Ancestral. Then you know, get the +1 and draw a card, sort of 4 value there, like even 7 value because it replaces itself. It's so good. Like, Ancestral, you got to basically put it in every one of your decks. It's just super, super incredible. So look at some of the sideboard options at this point. Let's start with equipment because it's the most obvious one. There's Claw, Vincerikai, and Spellfreighted Leggings. I went with more of a Spellvoid package this time. I think you can play the AB Leggings as well. I think it's perfectly fine. I just wanted more of a, if I sit down against Kano, I always have the AB basically on my legs. But I think the one AB will probably make it into the list later. I did play a Vincent and I was like, I could have pitched like a Warmongers or Throw Dagger depending on, you know, if I drew it, you know, or on turn 0 versus like Kano and something like that. Like, you can actually pitch one, which might be like slightly better. Claw Vincerikai is one of the cards that just impressed me throughout the entire weekend, basically. This card is incredible. I still can't believe they printed this card. It's just like absolutely, it's actually insane. The one thing I'll say about Claw is that everybody gets this wrong to where the Claw doesn't die when using with it. So it's like a pseudo finisher, especially on Wrath turns. When you have Claw, to where you can just dagger, so you can like attack twice with the go. Like, you attack with the go again one, attack with the Claw, boots the Claw, flick the other side, come with the go again one, and then come in with the Claw again, and then the Claw stays with you, so you can flick it the next turn and then get both daggers back. It's just absolutely incredible. It made the Florian matchup like 5%, maybe 10% better. It's because like every single time they would make a rune chant and then swing their weapon or swing an attack, you'd just be like, oh, I'll just take all the rune chants, and then eventually you can get to this position to where like you just died at the rune chants. I get to Spell Void 1 for free basically every single turn now, so I don't take one of the rune chants or one of the 2 rune chants depending on the type of the game, and I'm not going to die to randomly die to just rune chants over like 10 turns, because I get to Spell Void them. Like, I get to Spell Void one of the every single time, and then I get to have 3 draconic chain links, flick the other dagger, bind both back. It's just incredible, like pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing the matchup even further. It makes it so your Verdance matchup, you know, you take less damage throughout the game. It's harder for them to kill you. You don't just die at 9 every single time. You have, like, because you have the Spell Void 1, you can go to exactly 9, and then have the Spell Void 1 up if you don't flick it. So, you know, they have to get you to 8 before it does. Sometimes you can buy it back mid-turn, so you can Spell Void, like, the first arcane thing, buy it back, Spell Void the second one, so it can make some awkward changes for them. Claw is just incredible. You can play versus Vincent as well. Anything that basically would do arcane damage, I'm playing Claw into. And then we got Warmongers Diplomacy. I'm basically bringing this in just for Gravy. I don't think the Gravy matchup is bad. I think it's like actually one of the good like reasons to play CINDRA. I think the matchup is a lot closer than it used to be. It's not because like the Gravy players are playing a lot more defensive reactions. That are up to like 5-6 defensive reactions on the list now. Which when you're getting into play a longer game, you can actually run them out of a lot of allies during the game. Because you just like kill an ally, send a little bit of face, they block a little bit, and you play Warmongers. Obviously, we're always calling war, but most of the time they'll either say, or if they have like a command, like the Conqueror of the High Seas, or they'll just be peace, play like a couple, like play a blue spell, fill their graveyard, play an ally, and then pass because they can't also swing with it, which is really, really strong. A lot of the times, they're just looking to keep a 4 or 5 card hand against CINDRA, and then just like multi-spell, multi-attack you, like play like non-attack and an attack and an ally and swing with the ally to finish. And Warwings just seeks to stop all of that and make them only do 1, and especially if they ever get to keep a 4-card hand. I blew out one of my graveyard opponents this weekend because he kept a whole bunch of cards to like try to pivot with a 5-card hand. I played Warwingers at the end, and he basically IP3'd himself and just like played a spell, like played an ally from the grave and then Arsenal passed. And I just got to increase my life total lead and make it so it was so hard for him to come back into the game and eventually close it out. Other card I'd like to talk about is going to be the other blues. This would be Throw Dagger. To be honest with you, it honestly is just kind of like a main board card, but I have it on the sideboard here because there's like some matchups that I don't. Throw Dagger is actually incredible. It's more like a ancestral than anything. It's just more more of a high variance one. Because it adds a blue to your deck for the rabble, but also it's worse against prevention because if they just have a shelter when you throw dagger, like you don't get to draw the card, you just basically discard a card. Like you discard a card to deal 1, they discard a card and prevent 3. It's kind of rough. But throw dagger's insane. That's the downside of it. The upside of throw dagger is extending chain links, getting an additional chest piece trigger throughout the game. Like most of our cards are 3s and 4s, so when they block your 3s, like on the second Draconic Chain Link, you're like 3, they take 3, you attack again for 3, they block for 3, you throw dagger this one, it extends the chain, you get to replace, the card replaces itself, you come in with like a 4 on the third Chain Link, they have to block it, then you can flick there, and then you get to still do mass twice. Even if they block the second and the third chain link, you're still presenting on the fourth chain link, extending the chain even further. I was making the block. Throw dagger's insane. You just chip your opponent down for so much damage throughout the game. And specifically late game, sometimes you just get to pitch this. I played against like a fatigue Jarl around one of the battle hardened, and eventually I just started just pitching my throw daggers instead of just playing them, and being able to like get back, you can just get back your daggers basically at any time, swing them multiple times during the turn, and just kind of chip your opponent out with like some pseudo Kadachi type of turns. Then we're looking at some of these defensive reactions. We got Shelter from the Storm and Loyalty Beyond the Grave. Shelter, just an all-star. Honestly, one of the best cards, probably one of the best defensive cards printed in the last, year or so. Just absolutely incredible. This card effect comes up so much because this deck doesn't really pitch for anything. He can be pitched to Rune Chance when they come in from Vincent or something like that. Can stop flick activations, good against Mario, good against these mid-range decks, like especially KO. You're just playing numbers, so having a 0-for-4 defense reaction really matters when they're playing specifically. I think it's like Stronger Survive, which is the one that has the on hit. You can block 4 on 7 if they're playing the red one, and then you can show like a 0-for-4 from your hand, and you don't have to discard a card. Comes up all the time. Came up in the finals of the ProQuest Plus. Came up in the semifinals of the ProQuest Plus when I played both the KOs. Come up all weekend versus them. Good against the Assassins in the format. Just an incredible card. Loyalty Beyond the Grave. You're basically playing into anybody that the game's going along. Like you're gonna play Jarl and it's gonna go long. You know that you're going to play against any of these. Like it's more the aggressive long decks like Victor into like Pallades or something like that, to where you're gonna have a lot of time to set up these big turns. And Loyalty, being able to draw a card, basically like you set like a 5-card hand, they don't disrupt you. You have now a 6-card hand because you get to banish 2 from your graveyard. Just incredible stuff with Loyalty Beyond the Grave being a defensive card there. But obviously, if you only see 1 during the game, it was just a block 3. So it's really for those matchups where you're going to see 40 cards in your deck, so you can draw 2 or 3 of them, so they're in your graveyard, so you can actually banish them to draw a card. But it is incredible when it sets up as well. Then we got another finisher. It's going to be Art of the Dragon Scale. If it's Draconic and it hits, you can put a -1 counter on equipment they control. And then if it has 0 block value, you can destroy it. Really good against Flick Knives. It's good against Mario. It's good against the Mirror. It actually comes up a little bit versus Florian if you wanted to play in that matchup, to where you can blow up Grasp eventually down the game, or you blow up, well, Grounded, depending if they hit it. But most likely this is just a must block from your opponent a lot of the time. I used to be really down on this card. I think with the changes of the list of being more aggressive and just kind of how, you know, the Mario matchup works and other things, I think Dragon Scale actually has a place in the list because of how popular CINDRA is right now. You just need something for the Mirror, and I think I'd rather go with Art of the Dragon Scale for like my Mirror tech currently than anything, because it gets blocks for 3 at least. Like at worst, blocks for 3 in the Mirror. That's good enough for me. I like blocking 3 if I can, because the Mirror goes long, you're blocking a lot. So Art of the Dragon Scale, very good. And then the spiciest inclusion of the weekend. This is a Nia classic. It's Rake Over the Coals. I was not a believer. I won't lie. When he came up and he was like, "Yo, Rake is insane in this deck," I was not really a believer. But every single thing I said about Throw Daggers and Ancestral works with Rake, right? This is a +1 to all Draconic attacks this turn. So keyly, I say attacks, right? This works on your dagger. So think about the turns to where you're playing Wrath and or Ignite. You Ignite into a sword. You play Rake at the beginning of that chain link. It's gonna give +1 to Ignite. It's gonna give +1 to the dagger. So now you're coming, instead of a 2 and a 1, you're coming in a 3 and a 2, and then you can have breakpoints throughout the entire turn. So all your 0 for 3s become 0 for 4s. All your 4s become 5s that are Draconic. It's just incredible stuff. Every single time I see this card, I've had this card be 7, 8, 9 points of value. Just incredible math on this card. Oh, finally popped up after hitting it a couple times. This card's just incredible, right? Like, even playing this, like, you have a 4-card hand, and you're like, it's not as good as the 4-card hand. You really like it on a 5-card hand if this is in Arsenal, or you draw it with already an Arsenal. That's where this card like super excels. Playing this versus the Earth characters, they give you a lot of time. This ends the game. Like, this being, you know, a 0 to like a 1-card 7, 8, it pushes the math in such a way. It's so much more awkward for them. Like, they're using these defense reactions. They don't have a lot of armor. They're trying to get that DR for 4 on exactly a 4. And like this making it a 5 just makes it so impossible for them to block all of these Draconic chain links. You just leak so much damage. You get to push through mass momentum. It's like one of the key cards in like the slower matchups. Like versus Jarl, every single time I played this card was a 7-point value swing. And allows you to get over a lot of these decks. You know, a lot of the time you'll play like Ignite and they'll like put a one block equipment and like discard Shelter. This works. This gets over by +1. Now your dagger that you're coming in that would have been prevented by Shelter actually comes in for 2, doesn't get prevented by still gets the 1 prevented by Shelter, still hits for 1, and then you get to extend the chain link even further. And then you're like, oh, I have a 4, and you're like, wait, well, he still has 1 prevention. You flick, boom, he doesn't have any prevention left on the Shelter, boom, you hit, right? It's actually incredible the amount of times you'll see with Rake. Just every single time you see Rake being incredible in your games. Like, I was terrorizing some people. I played against this Florian, this great guy, but he got terrorized from Rake Over the Coals this weekend, just running them over, doing so much damage. How they have to change so much disruption as a Florian, or like try to race you as Verdance, and Rake of the Coals closes that door. What an incredible card. I think it's one of the best like cyber cards for the deck that like hasn't come to fruition until now. So super excited with Rake Over the Coals. If you're also excited to play CINDRA, looking forward, I would I'm going to post the list obviously in the description, and I have the matchups for this list all the way in there if you want to see any of them. I have it in the description below. You don't have to just like screenshot this, randomly. And if you want a more detailed thing, you can always just DM me or at me on Twitter, and I'll respond in the DMs. Don't worry about it. And if you need any of your cards for this ProQuest season that is happening right now for the next 4 or 5 weeks, head over to invasioncnc.ca and pick up all the cards that you need for this ProQuest season. Those guys are incredible out there, and use Mask 5 for 5% off of your Flesh and Blood singles orders. Thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna work on a Minify article. If it probably won't be done by this video coming out, but I'll definitely tweet about it, and I'll add it to the description eventually. But thank you guys for watching. Hope you have success in your ProQuest season. I'm excited to get out there this weekend and actually play ProQuest as well. So hope you guys do well, and let me know.